Hola, good morning. My name is Julio Covarrubias, and we are pruning Petite Sirah varietal. Normally, I prune to one bud. The reason I'm doing one bud is these vines are big producers. I want less fruit so I can do less work. I don't have to drop fruit as much. And I will be controlling the growth by irrigating. All I want from these vines to produce around 5 tons to an acre. This is Petite Sirah Clone 3. Rootstock is SO4. It produces big clusters. So I'm just trying to do one cluster per shoot. This will give me enough for 5 tons to an acre. One cluster per shoot, one bud spurs. In some varietals, if you prune early, you will get bud break early. The reason I'm leaving one bud per spurt, is to reduce the volume of shoots. I want to have less shoots. Less shoots will help me to do less work. The more shoots you have, the more you're going to have, the more fruit you're going to have to drop, and the growth I'm going to be able to control it by irrigation and trying to get everything to grow about 42 to 48 inches high without trimming the ends, and that will help me balance the vine. When you're farming, you're thinking about the financial return and the expense that you're creating. If you're not careful, you could create a big expense, and that would be against your budget, that would be against your profit. So it's very important to know what you're doing and doing things on the right time. In some places, people prune very, very early. They have bud break very early, and if they have a frost, they're gonna lose part of all of the crop. So it's very important to know where you're farming, where you have your vineyard, and what you want to get out of it. I like to have my spurts separated, not too close, and sometimes they're kind of close. Then you just manage them by selecting the cluster that you want to leave. As you can see, there is only one cluster per shoot, and that's my goal. When I start pruning, the first thing you need to have is how many tons are you planning to get, where the fruit is going to go, what kind of wine the winemaker is expecting to make out of the fruit. So you have to have those things. If you want production, then you leave the spurs with 2 buds. But then you have too much fruit, and it's going to take longer to ripe. And if you have way too much fruit, it might not ripe. One of the things that you need to think when you're pruning is shoot position. You want to make sure that you have a space in between them. On Petite Sirah especially. Other varietals, it doesn't make any difference, but on Petite Sirah it does. So you want to be able to have enough space. And normally when it comes to selecting the clusters that you're going to leave. Every shoot is going to have 2 clusters or sometimes 3. So you have to leave one, and you have to make sure that you leave one down and one up. Space them. If you don't do that, then you're going to be you're going to have a lot of clumps. You have to declamp it, really open it up, and when you do that, you're just spending more money. So when you're pruning, you have to be thinking on how you can do what you want to do with less effort, less work, and less money to make it financially beneficial. Every winery, they have a different system when it comes to pruning, because they have different programs for winemaking. I don't have a winery, so I have to prune according to the people who are going to be buying the fruit. And normally they want a high quality to make a very good wine. So the fruit has to be to that level. So I'm trying to, from the beginning, I'm trying to just leave enough spurs to accomplish my goal. Another thing that I look at it is that I have to keep an eye on growing system. I don't want the shoots to really grow very high, so I have to control the growth by irrigating. So I have to be really checking it every week to see if it needs water, and if it does, how much water. And I have to be watching the heat. Petite Sirah, when it's really hot, you can lose sometimes up to 10% of the berries. They would burn. They will become raisins before they're ripe. So you have to think on all of these things, especially if you have a Petite Sirah like here. You have to be thinking on leaving some leaves to become like a little hat for the cluster. Shade for the cluster, especially on the west side. When it gets really, really hot, you have to protect those vines. The reason I have SO4 is because of the soil test that I did. And SO4 rootstock, it doesn't grow too deep. You want to keep it on shadow. If you go too deep, then you might have a more vigorous vine than you want. So you want to control the vigorous of the vine. So you have to get the rootstock according to the soil, and you have to get the varietal according to the soil. The Petite Sirah likes flat ground, not hillside. Cabernet, they like hillsides. Petite Sirah likes flat sides. Same thing with Chardonnay. These varietals, they like flat soils. Hillsides, vines would be more stressed. Cabernet likes to be more stressed than Petite Sirah. And it grows better and produces better fruit on the hillsides. But Petite Sirah, it does a lot better on the flat. Petite Sirah has been a grape that has been in California for a long, long time. When they were making wine for the people who used to work on the mines and in the 1800s, they always had a little bit of Petite Sirah next to the Zinfandel. That's why they have Zinfandel, old vine Zinfandel, and normally they're from regions where they had mines. They make wine for the miners. And you will find a little bit of Petite Sirah that they used to blend it because of the high color and the explosion of flavors that Petite Sirah has. Whatever you do one year, you're pretty much going to have the same thing next year. If you control the growth, if you leave more than one bud, you will have more to prune next year. As you can see from last year, I'm trying to just have as minimum. When you prune to one bud, you're always going to, the bud that is way down that sometimes you don't see is going to push out. And I want to keep those spurs down. If you don't do it down, if you don't keep it down, they will grow, and you will see in some vines the spurs, 6-7 inches high or more. So I believe on keeping it low. And as you can see, when I did the installation, I did it so I could be working here instead of here. When you work this height, it's very tiring if you're doing the work. But this low is easy to tie, it's easy for everything. Especially the friends that they come and help me. Normally they're a little bit shorter, and it's just perfect. You have to think of the people who is going to be doing the work too, as you planning a vineyard. I think about vine vigor. Normally, when you have a bigger vines, it's because there was not a good balance on fertility program and not a good balance on water. The more water you put, the more they will grow. So you have to control all of these growing systems, and at the same time you have to know your soil. Some soils require more water than others. This is a kind of sandy gravel soil. It keeps the moisture, so I don't have to water a lot on this type of a soil. And these soils are perfect for Petite Sirah or white varietals. As you can see, these are spurs. This is cordon. This is a training stake. The reason we put training stakes, you want the vine to go straight. And if you notice this here, the vine was cut, and I left a sucker from the vine. Petite Sirah vines, they don't last long. The wood is very soft, and they get disease, and they start dying. Jutaipa, one of those. So when you start having Jutaipa, what you do, you cut the vine all the way until you see a nice green, and leave a sucker, then that will become another vine. Normally Petite Sirah will last anywhere from around 10, 15 years, 20 years. These vines are 20 years old. And the reason they're still alive is because I left a sucker that became another vine. Otherwise, their lifetime would be done. And this is the cordon wire that we have. We have 2 caching wires as they grow, and we have the irrigation drip system. If I was cane pruning, I would have cut this off and leave this as a new cane, and leave it a spur to get a new cane for next year. And I will cut the cordons, have a new cordon every year. A lot of people are doing that now, and it will produce. I don't know if it will be better fruit or not, but I try to stay the traditional way, having the cordon, having the shoots going straight up, pruning by 2 buds, spurs, or 1 bud spurs instead of 2, and just going like the traditional way. Normally people start pruning at the beginning of the year, but when you have like Petite Sirah that might get Jutaipa, it's better to prune late as possible. Like here, it was pruned in 2 days. Yesterday and the day before. It took 2 days to prune here, a crew of about 17 people. And I try to prune when it's late. But when you start seeing like eutypa, you can see that they're dying. Once you see that the spurp is dying, then you have to cut it back. And normally, if you're going to cut it back, it's good to cut it when you get some water coming out of it. This way we protect it from other diseases. If you cut it too early, you might leave the wound open for other diseases to go in. If you prune early, you get bud break early. And in some varietals, that might not be a good idea, especially if your vineyard is in a frost area. So the earlier you prune, the more chances you're gonna have to get a frost. So you know there's a lot of things to think, depending on your location, on your vineyard, and depending the challenges that you have. You know, in some places you can see that they have windmills because of that. So this is very, very, very important to know where you're stepping into. And normally, when we mow the shoots. Everything gets mowed at the same time. I don't know if you notice, in some places they mow one row and leave the other one, or they put cover crop in one and not in the other one. Normally they do that because of financial. They want to do it, but it costs too much money if you do every single row, so they do one every other row. And in some places they put a lot of flowers. Some places they use the native seeds, native grasses. So it depends on how you want to look and what you're doing for the soil. All of this at the end is the statics. At the same time, is what you're giving back to the soil to continue helping the soil to help you. When you're farming to help the vine to produce better fruit, to have better wine. And that's the main reason. And we try to keep everything clean under the vine, as you can see. And the reason we do that is the statics. It just looks a lot nicer, a lot better. And once you mow, then everything looks a lot better.
So the prunings, you just put them in the middle, and then when you mow your cover,
you mow everything.
You mow it all together, and it
Yes.
ends up well enough for you.
Yes, and normally when we mow, we try to mow 2 times a year. But if you can do it one, that will save a lot of money. If you're not careful, you might have to mow 3 or 4 times a year. So you have to be timing everything. If you mow right now, the grass will continue growing. So you kind of wait until the grass kind of change color, when you can see that it's not going to grow anymore. And that's when you come in and mow, and that can save you 1 pass or 2 passes. It costs a lot of money to farm, so you have to be thinking on savings. So you have to have a process, you have to have a plan, and you have to have a lot of small goals as the vine grows, as the season grows. So you have to be hitting those goals in order to be effective financially.